Hello, Mr. Clemmons.
Hey Steve, what's up, man?
So before we start doing this interview, I want to tell everyone out there, you're in Germany. Where in
Yeah.
Germany are you?
Well, I spent most of my time in Berlin. When I moved from Los Angeles, but we're right on the border. We're like just over the border, a bit to the north of
The
Berlin.
border of Berlin. So which is
Yeah.
probably the biggest city in Germany, along with like, is it bigger than Munich? And is it the big Frankfurt?
I only know there's about 4 million people there. I don't actually know if it's the biggest city. I actually don't know.
It is a
I,
big
I don't
city.
know.
We'll just say that. So, Dave, I wanted to talk to you about your great career, man. And I want to go all the way back. Where exactly did you grow up, and when did you actually start playing music?
Hey, cool. So way back, man. I grew up, was born in Richmond, Virginia, down in the South,
Hmm.
and family, from the mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountain area and all that. And I feel really lucky about that. I could talk about that for hours, but to have those roots, and good people, really good people, they remember you. And when I was playing a lot of American football when I was a young kid, into my early teenage years and stuff. And then there was a day when I was out delivering my newspapers because it, we're a working class family, and if you wanted $5, you had to go get it. You had to work for it. And so me and my sister, we both had newspaper routes. And from, I don't know, I was like 11 or something. We were out there
Right.
alone delivering newspapers at 5 in the morning. And I was delivering my newspapers one day, and Jeff Fugit, the brother of one of my sweethearts from the fourth grade, stuck a global Strat copy out of his door, and I can still see him standing there and out of his front door. Hey, Dave, you want to buy an electric guitar?
How
And
old were
'cause
you when this happened?
I was 13, and
13. Okay.
because everybody knew Dave's got money, right? So if somebody wanted, because he's delivering newspapers, and I remember I paid him 45 US dollars, and I was 13, and it was a global tobacco sunburst Strat copy. I mean, a piece of dog poo, of course. But I tell you what, Dave, you want to buy a guitar? And I said yes. I went home. My dad saw it and got mad at me. What the hell did you do? Buy a guitar? What are you gonna do with that? And then at some point, my dad was we were trying to tune it. My dad playing a harmonica, and we broke half the strings on the first night, I think, trying to tune it. Two
And this is
idiots.
and
And
this is in the suburbs of Richmond, you said?
yeah, and this was in Richmond. Actually, I was born in the city of Richmond, but I mean, we always lived in the suburbs like Henrico, West End, the same, not the inner city, but a little bit out.
Well,
And
one
that's how
thing,
it all started.
yeah, one thing about Richmond that I remember is when I would be on the road with bands, like we'll talk about how I was on the road with you. I used to stay at the Jefferson Hotel in Richmond,
Oh
which to
yeah,
me was one of the coolest hotels in America.
yeah,
I mean, it was a real old building, had been there forever. Richmond was an interesting place because it was kind of
yeah.
like half the north and half the south, It was a
Hmm.
very interesting place. It must have been interesting growing up there for you.
Yeah, of course. When you're born somewhere, it's like so many people are lucky to be born into whatever Western countries and all that. We just don't realize it. And it was like being born in Richmond. There was so much there. Like, what do you want to do? We'll go to Yorktown or whatever. And then for us, it was just Yorktown. But for the rest of the country, it was like something really special. And to have that, and I always think about that because Richmond really, I mean, it's really split politically, like really,
Yeah, it
and
is.
in a way. And from my I mean, from my perspective, is I think the people there are quite good at handling it as well. They're quite fair of Southern hospitality. They're quite nice to each other, and at least in my circle, my family. I mean,
Yeah,
and
I've been to radio stations there, record stores, talked to
yeah,
reporters. I brought this band, Jacko Pierce, that was also on A&M, the label you were on, to a
yeah,
TV show once. I've been to a strip bar there. I pretty much did everything that you can do in Richmond that I can think of.
yeah,
What was like, I know the first band that people know you from is Ministers of Anger, but were you in bands before that?
yeah. I had a slow start, I like to say, and I really felt that even when I was in, of course, on into Damn the Machine and all of that. I really kind of had a slow start. I started when I was 13. I could play songs. I played in a bunch of cover bands in Richmond. Moved to Los Angeles in '86 and had just yeah, I was just noodling around, I would say, for a few years. Not really yeah, from '86 to '87, just kind of learn and practice, and getting the recycler every 2 weeks or whenever it came out, the secondhand paper where you would look and you find drummer available, Seeks band with label interest, lockout studio, long hair, and transportation a must, and all of these things. And we noodled around a little bit, and then I don't know. There was a guy named Ray Roche. He plays in a tribute band, and I remember me and Steve, my Judd buddy, we went to him. We would jam with him in his little place in West Hollywood. He had the egg crates on the wall, all that, drummer. And at some point he said, "Man, you guys have been coming here for months and you still haven't written a song." And it clicked in my head. I'm like, right, we're just coming over and just jamming riffs, and there's never really been any development, right? And then I started to think, okay, write songs, I have to write songs. And so then I got a drum machine and a 4-track, and I was at home in my bedroom, and I made up all these songs. And that's where the Ministers of Anger stuff came from. And we were in the practice room. But right around that same time, I had met a series of people that led to meeting Dave McClain, drummer, Machine Head,
Yeah.
Ross Robinson, Dino Cavares from Fear Factory as well. They were all practicing right next to us in a place in Playa del Rey. There were 2 rooms. There was a window in between. We could see each other. And we were like,
Wow.
damn, they're pretty. And we were like, man, they're pretty good. They're pretty
So
good.
I was going to ask you, where you lived when you moved out to LA. Was Playa del Rey? Did you live in Playa del
Well,
Rey?
I lived at the beach. My mom was managing apartment buildings in Santa Monica, and we went in there like kings. I was so lucky, man, so fucking lucky.
Santa
And
Monica.
yeah, 4th Street. I mean, 4th Street. My mom managed 3 apartment buildings with her.
Oh, so your whole
husband.
family moved to LA.
Well, my mom went back and forth, and so when I went there in '86, it's because my mom and my sister were there. My sister's boyfriend broke up, and she called me, and I was 19, and she said, "My boyfriend broke up with me. I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent." And I'd been out of high school for 3 months. I said, "I'll call you back." And I called my friend Steve. I was like, "Steve, man, you want to move to LA? My sister needs a roommate." Okay. And then in a few weeks, we were throwing all my shit out from my bedroom and just drove out there in my little car. And that was the big end of one world and the beginning of another. But really all because my sister's boyfriend broke up with him. Of course, they got back together, and we all lived in the one bedroom there for a while together until she kicked us out. But that was in Santa Monica. And then we were just jamming and looking for a lockout space or a rehearsal space and all that. We ended up with Eddie. Do you remember Eddie Ortel or Ortelli? He was a sound guy at Troubadour at some point.
It's possible. I remember meeting sound guys here, but I don't know if I can't recall the name, but it's quite possible.
Yeah, he had this rehearsal place in Playa del Rey, and we just went over there, and that's where Ross Robinson, Dave McClain, and Dino, they were just kind of, I don't know if they were finishing Catalepsy. I think they recorded Catalepsy while they were there in that room. I remember hearing them practice with the click, with going through the PA, just boom, 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 boom. I'm like, what the hell are they doing in there? But that's Ross Robinson. He was really getting them ready for the studio, and he always had good results. You saw what came later.
Yeah.
And that's how we met them. And you know what's strange though, is that we didn't really meet them there. We moved at some point, they were gone. They were just gone. Oh yeah, okay. And then at some point we were gone. We were like looking for a room, and we ended up at Downtown Rehearsal, Vernon Rehearsal Studios. And guess who was our neighbor? There must have been 100 rooms in that complex, and we were right next door to each other again. This total freak of musical world. We were right next to each other, and so then we just
next door to who?
Next to Ross and Dave McClain again. We just by chance. They say you always meet twice, right? And that was like, yeah, okay, that's pretty weird. I didn't even realize it at the time, but when I think back about it, I think, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then they had a bass player. They had formed then Murder Car. That was Ross, Dave, and a bass player named Kurt. And we were just jamming next door, making up instrumental music with my bud Andre LaBelle from Richmond and Steve, my buddy Steve Cordery from Richmond as well. And we were jamming, they were jamming. We could hear each other through the walls. And at some point, their bass player quit, and he said, "Hey, Dave, you want to play bass for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And so then I started playing bass with Ross and Dave McLean, and Sean Hamrick was the singer. And so then I jammed with them for a while. And so in LA, back to your question, did I play in other bands? I mean, that was kind of my first real band in LA, was Murder Car, playing bass.
Murder Car.
Yeah, and I just put a live concert video from Jezebel's Anaheim up from 88 or 89. I just put that on my YouTube channel. It's pretty interesting because it's really old. I mean, that's, God, what is that? That's 30 plus years old. I mean,
So where
yeah,
does Ministers of Anger fit into all this?
and that was just the stuff that I was making in my bedroom, right, with the drum machine. I told you about it.
Yeah.
EMU drumulator, probably worth a fortune now. I sold it for a couple bucks. And I said, I want to go record, And Ross said, "Well, why don't you ask Dave?" I'm like, "Okay." I asked Dave, and I'm pretty sure I gave Dave $200, and he recorded like on 3 different sessions for me.
It's a
Like
good deal. You
10
got your
songs.
money's worth.
I tell you that I don't think I've ever got that value on the dollar since then. And and yeah, and man, was he good. And I can remember I was an idiot, man. I was like playing Dave McLean. Okay, but then Dave McLean wasn't, and it was 87. We were kind of
Yeah.
all starting out. Nobody knew where anybody was going. That Ross Robinson was just this guitar player guy that was a vegetarian that came across as kind of weird to people and stuff because he was so detail oriented about certain things, and some things he didn't care at all about. And so I was playing my EMU drumulator drum machine parts for Dave McLean. I'm like, kind of like this, man, kind of like this. And he was just trying to be polite and like, "Okay, yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out." And then we were in the studio, and I'm like, "Oh my God, is that guy good?" And he just like, I don't know, like I had like some fast double bass part on my, worked out. And then he just did this like Bonham groove or something straight through all this stuff. And I was like, "Oh my God, this guy is amazing." And I was just blown away. And so then I played the bass and did all the screaming. I'm not going to say vocals. I'm going to call it screaming, and screaming with words. And that was it. And Joe Floyd from Warrior, the
Oh,
old
yeah.
80s. Joe Floyd was my good bud. I met him calling people, just trying to drum up something, get something going on. And somehow me and Joe Floyd clicked, and we still do. I love him to death, and we still talk all the time, and did a bunch of recording sessions together. And even into the 2000s, I mean, he did stuff for me. Even into 2006, he did a record with me in Redondo Beach at his place. And he recorded everything with his buddy Sean. They had a Trident 80B, everything analog, and they had an old computer. They had old, no, that was state of the art. I can still remember the green DOS screen, and they had automation. And everything, like if you pulled a fader down, it took a minute because you could hear it go. But they had automation in 87, and they were running that, and I remember that. And he did all that stuff for me. I think I traded him a red Marshall and a SVT or something. And
so at this point, you're already pretty well connected with a lot of people in LA. How did you end up meeting Chris Poland?
Yeah, and then again, when I think back, I think about, man, I am glad I made a couple of these little, turns on the street, walking this way or that way, because it's all connected. Because what happened was, me and Ross really clicked, and he lived in my flat. So did Dave. I mean, we were all living in that one bedroom, a different one bedroom in the same building. I told you about my sisters, but it was pretty cool. Ross was behind the couch, and Dave was in the closet with his girlfriend. Classic, man. And then it went on and on. And then at some point, I had a lineup for Ministers of Anger. I quit Murder Car. I went over to Pittsburgh with my drummer friend John Osterman, who was, because Dave didn't play live, of course, he never played live. I had some other guys put together, and we really learned the Ministers of Anger songs. That was not easy either. And we did some gigs. We did a couple gigs, and there was a bass player in Pittsburgh that wanted to play with us. John said he's great. We listened to him, and we moved there just for the hell of it. Just we
You
had a
moved to
school bus.
Pittsburgh?
We had a school bus, and we drove to Pittsburgh. Crazy
I
stuff,
did
man.
not
Crazy
know
stuff.
about this.
Yeah, we just went to Pittsburgh, and then we lived in. I mean, this would be a great movie. The grandmother of the girlfriend of the drummer's house in a village in Pennsylvania, Denora. They had goats and stuff. One of
Denora.
them came in my room one morning, and we lived there because we were going to make a rock band in Pittsburgh. And in the end, I was in this little farmhouse in Denora. This is a true story. I'm not. It sounds like I'm making it up. We practiced at a skating rink. They said you can practice at the skating rink. And so we set up in the roller skating rink and we're practicing there. And then we had to go out because they were opening and stuff like that, right? And then we were there in Pittsburgh, and then it was pretty cool. And then it was not so cool. And then things started to unravel. Sounds like the
Well,
VH1
it's
special.
really interesting that you mentioned Denora, because I know someone from there. That's the town that got wiped out by there was some sort of a leak that happened in the air, and a bunch of people died there. I think it was like way back. I don't have this info in front of me, but Denora is a famous town for that. It used to be a
Like
blooming town.
manufacturing.
Yeah, and then there was real pollution problem there, and
Wow.
a lot of people got sick. I didn't know that you lived
Man,
there. I do remember being in Pittsburgh with Damn the Machine, though, which is really funny. That was
Yeah.
years later. So when Pittsburgh
Wow.
didn't work out, you went back to LA?
Yeah, like things started going sour there. I mean, it was crazy. It couldn't have worked out anyway. We played one gig, I think, at the Electric Banana.
That's a
still
famous
remember.
place. Famous
And I think
place.
we got if I remember correctly, we got in an argument after the gig because the bass player wanted to leave without loading gear. His girlfriend wanted to go home or something. And then the VH1 special, then we fell apart after that gig. So, and then right about that time, it was getting kind of difficult there because didn't have any money or anything. And so I had actually got me a little job, and my buddy Saul Englehart was working there too. He went on to tech for everybody, Machine Head and everybody. And we were all living there, and I'm like, oh man, this is getting complicated. And then at some point I got a phone call. I think a phone call. I mean, God, it's weird to think. I don't want to say an email because it was 1988 or 1989.
It was probably a phone call.
I guess it was a phone call, but I don't even know how that would have happened. Maybe he called my dad's in Richmond from Ross. And Ross said, hey, Dave, man. I mean, this is classic Ross. Chris Poland's looking for a guy to play guitar and sing. You'd be perfect, he said. And I mean, I knew who Chris Poland was. I was a Megadeth fan, of course.
Right.
And I can't remember exactly how it hit me, but I jumped on it. And I talked to Chris on the phone. I sent him the Ministers of Anger, and he loved it. And he still loves it. He still talks about it. He just did a podcast with the guy from Death Angel, who does this podcast, and he was talking about Ministers of Anger, and I got in touch with him, and he said, I'm pretty sure that I paid the first ticket. I think my girlfriend and my mom put money together and paid me a plane ticket, and I flew from Richmond. I drove to Richmond and then flew to LA. Practiced first. I learned all the songs from Return to Metalopolis. I really did. I learned the guitar parts, and I went out there for my audition, and that was amazing. And they couldn't believe it because I learned all the songs off of the solo.
Was Mark Poland and Dave Randy already involved with Chris at the time? So the three of them were together and they were looking for you. Now, was this before or after? Well, let me just, for the people listening out there, Brian Huttenhauer at A&M Records signed the band. And there was a big buzz when he signed the band, and I was working for him at the time.
Yeah.
Did they have the deal, or did they have Janie Hoffman,
No,
the
not at all.
manager?
No,
Did
no.
was
No,
Janie
it's
Hoffman
totally
the
on.
manager?
Yeah, that because Janie and Chris had been already working together
Okay,
since he was out of Megadeth, and then Janie and him kind of were a pair, and
yeah.
I guess she really helped him. And I don't want to speak personally
I
on
think
which
people know
level,
the
but
story.
I think that I believe that there was a bit of a light there, and it helped Chris to kind of get on his way.
Yeah,
And then Janie, as far as I know, she managed Excel. She managed, of course, Chris, and was doing tons of work. She worked with Journey, and I don't know, all kinds of stuff through the '70s, I guess. And I flew out there for my audition. My went into their room there, and they were a three-piece. They were already performing as an instrumental, and I think Dave Randy would even sing "Wake Up Dead." Wake Up Dead. And I jammed. They were, of course, blown away, because even I can't even remember how I learned those songs. But I worked really hard. I worked really hard to over and over, left speaker, right speaker, trying to figure everything out. And then we jammed, and man, we wrote a song. I'm pretty sure we wrote a song on the first session. And then what happened was I had to go back, because I bought a round trip ticket. I didn't live there anymore in LA. And then I'm pretty sure it worked, that Chris said, man, he told me, he said, get back to you, whatever, and feeling was good. And he said, man, we really want you to come back. I'll buy the ticket this time. And so he bought me the ticket to come back. And then we made it solid that I would join. And then I moved back, and I actually moved back, was back then with my old girlfriend, because I had the girlfriend there at the time. And then actually, I think I moved back into the same apartment. I'd given it to my girlfriend and left when I went to Pittsburgh,
right.
came back, and then kind of solidified that band, us four, as a four-piece. And then the name and everything came later. It was my name. I came up with the name. And then Janie was the whole time, as far as I remember, very, very active with the band. I mean, when I joined with Chris, Mark, and Dave, I joined kind of an organization that
Yeah,
was,
very
the
good
structure was
organization.
there,
Yeah,
but
very,
there
very
was,
good
but there was,
organization.
but musically, I would say, because a lot of people, when they discover me, they think, oh, we never knew you had such a impact on that band or whatever. But when you listen to the music, kind of mine, theirs, and everything, you can kind of hear who had a little bit of influence, which direction. But in all honestly, it was definitely a great thing that I could join with them, because it was really professional. We practiced often, regularly. You shouldn't be late, all of that. Like, I remember Fishbone. You remember Fishbone?
Yes.
They used to have to pay a penalty fee if they were late. They had like a beer jar or something like that, and they were serious about that. They had to pay like $50 or something if a band member was late to practice. They're in the same room, same building as us down there. And yeah, and that was kind of like, to try to get to that point of your question, is that's kind of like how all that came to be. And I mean, you couldn't write it. It's a crazy series of events, but I mean, all band formations usually have some kind of this person met this person, went here. And
Do you remember how long it took to get the deal with A&M?
Well, if I look back on the timeline, I know that we actually released the album in '93.
Yes.
And I went in '91. We were writing songs in '91.
Did Janie like just all of a sudden come to you guys and say, A&M just made us an offer? Is that how it went down?
Well, we had a few different things going on. We played a couple gigs. We did like a showcase gig at the Cat House, which was
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
and then we played at the Green Door. Tom Araya from Slayer was there. That was really cool. We did a couple showcase gigs. We had recorded. I had done the demo recordings in the room, and that's what we just released, the day one recordings. Those are the demo recordings that I did, and we had been sending those around to people. And if I remember correctly, MCA offered us a deal first. We actually had an offer from MCA.
Wow.
And then we had, so when Brian Huttenauer came, I'm not sure if he came first alone, and then he came and brought David Andrioni.
David Anderley, who's the head of A&R, who was the head of, rest in peace, by the way. Yeah, he was all a boss of the whole A&R department.
Oh man, and so he's not with us anymore.
Yeah, he passed away, unfortunately.
Oh man. He, as far as I remember, he gave the thumbs up after watching one rehearsal at Downtown Rehearsal with us. And then we all, between all of us, decided that we would love to be on A&M. Sting, Herb Albert,
Soundgarden.
yeah, Soundgarden. And as Chris Poland says, what Al Cafaro said, you guys are a 3-album band, and we know that, which is still what everybody's
that has to hurt. Well, now anyways, well, let me just tell people that how I got involved with the band, because I ended up going on the road with you guys, which was great. Is I was working as Brian's A&R consultant, and one day he called me in and said, Steve, I have this great idea. You're going to go over to the marketing department. You're going to go on the road with Damn the Machine. And I'm like, what? Because I was like an A&R consultant, and they moved me over there because I was a marketing guy, Metal Blade and Enigma and John, all the other labels I worked at. Yeah. So they moved me over there, and I literally told me, you're going on the road with the band. And I had heard the record. And I'm like, oh, this is good. Lonesome God and all, the record like got me. Silence. There were really good songs on it. And I was like, all right. And then I got to spend probably, I think it was more like 7.5 weeks, I believe, on the road with you guys. And opening for Voivod every night. And and then I went to Mexico with you guys for a show, and also a festival in Phoenix. Let's talk about that whole experience, the Voivod tour, because I thought that was a fabulous time. It was a great time for me, and it seemed like the band was really in good spirits, and the shows were all good. Are those good memories for you?
Absolutely, yeah. We the whole thing, I mean, it was like happening, like this golden memory rolling out in front of you. You were in it, so you didn't really see it, because I mean, Voivod, and not only Voivod, but Piggy and Snake. And I mean, now, of course, when you think back about actually being present, not only at a gig, but on the bus, at the dinner, at the breakfast, hanging around, we're throwing football with Snake, and we were like, how can it be that a guy from North America can't throw an American football? Because it's like, yeah, but they're from Quebec or whatever. It's different. It's
Montreal, I think.
Right, it's right there. I mean, it's Buffalo. It's right. I mean, what are you talking about? And Snake tried to throw us a football, and we were all trying not to laugh because he looked really goofy, and we're like, American football. And that experience, man, and they're so nice to us, and they're I mean, Poop, what's their text name? I mean,
I can't remember any of the guys, but they're all good guys. They're all in those videos that we saw, because we have some well-documented videos from that tour. But I do remember that whenever I would set up an in-store or have a dinner, some of the Voivod guys managed always to sneak in, like Snake came with us to the heavy metal shop. And then we're at dinner in Phoenix, and we look, and there's the Piggy and the other guys are at the dinner with us. They managed to sneak into our events, but we had a lot of fun, man. And those shows were like, I mean, I remember some of them being epic, like San Antonio, for some reason. I remember that show. It was in a big hall, and it was just a really, and there were a lot of them like that, though, and it was really sad for me, because when the tour ended and we got back, and then time went by, and it seemed like, what's going on? And I don't know if you guys bought yourself out of the deal, or you were dropped, or what. I really don't even remember what happened, but one day you were there and the next day you were, that was my life working at a major
Yeah.
label. You know, bands would come
Oh,
and
man.
go. It was sad for
Yeah.
me, man, because I remember the last time I saw you guys were down at A&M and we were out in the street talking. And then after that, I don't know who told me, but someone said, damn, Machine's gone. They're not with us anymore. I don't know if you guys broke. Did you break up? Did you get dropped? What happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's also kind of foggy in my memory too, but if I try to put it into like a couple short sentences, it's like, you were right. In the States, we have great spirits and everything was really good. And we were tight, and we were even tight in the whole European tour when we paid to go, we paid a bit. Of course, it's normal to go out with a band like Dream Theater or something. And we did the whole month with them over there. And I'm not exactly sure if anything could have been different. I said this in an interview that I did for Rock Art magazine. I think when I really think back about all of that, because you think could have done this, could have done that, and all of that. But what happened seemed like we just kind of like self-destructed, like the thing being. It was weird. People didn't accept us. You have to remember, like, because now when you look back and you go, damn, the Machine was doing this 30 years ago. It's listen to that music, listen, to the content of the lyrics or whatever, and it's all relevant and everything. But then it was like we were like this weird band that you couldn't groove to, you couldn't get in a mosh pit, because then came the halftime part, and and the guys weren't drinking whiskey on stage, and there was like we were in the whole time. There was like this public force, social force that was like, I have the feeling it was pushing in a really strange way back on us. We didn't conform to anything, and I don't know, maybe that kind of like imploded, especially on the European tour, where the charisma, I was lacking. I couldn't be charismatic anymore. It was somehow, I don't know, it was too close to it. It was like if you listen to the same song a million times, you can't really hear it anymore, or something like that. And we came back and we started working on songs, and the new songs were kind of okay, but they were not what the songs from 92 were. And we actually probably should never have done this, but we played them for the label because they wanted to hear new music. And then they told us that they were not happy with it. They didn't like it. And then we had a little band meeting,
Was that
and there were
Brian?
some
Was it Brian
just
still?
with the band.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what?
Was it still Brian Huttenhauer?
Yeah, but we had a meeting with the band after we played the songs. I think it was kind of like we had to play them for the boss. We had to play them for Al. I think Janie gave the music to Al Kafar and Nathan
The
Dawson. They
president
were
of the
not so
label.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, it was not. I can judge it well now. I mean, those songs were nothing compared to the songs, all the other songs. But we had then a band meeting with just the four of us, and it was fair. That was everything cool, but some conversation, how the conversation was going and stuff like that, it was pretty much coming towards me. Everything coming towards me. I was the guy in the middle, making up the words and singing the notes, and kind of like the focal point of everything. And so a lot of it came on my shoulders, and I was it just felt like, I have a lot of creativity burning inside of me, and I felt like I wanted to do so many different things, and I just really said that other stuff and other things, and I don't want to, try to get myself straight as a front man for this band. I didn't have the desire anymore to go that route. And although now when I think back, like, what a fucking idiot I was, I should have really just done everything possible to continue that, but then it probably wouldn't have continued anyway. But now, like I said in the Rock Hard interview, probably letting fate play out the way that it did was all cool, because now we what kind of happened without us trying was that we froze that in time. And 3 decades later now, we can come back and everything's still pure. We don't have all of these weird things that happened because the band was breaking up but still trying to play or something. And it's like it just stopped, like what you heard, it just stopped. We were gone. everything frozen in time, and everybody says the same thing. I wish this band would make another album. I wish this band would make an album, and we're kind of starting to do that now. I've already started. Me and Mark are already trading.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And
Okay.
it's
Oh, that's
fucking,
that I did not
it's
expect to hear that. Wow.
and it's so fucking good that it's frightening, that I don't want to talk about it too much, because I don't know how far we can make it go. I don't know. Chris and Dave are totally into it, but it could be that we can't get it together. Could really be. So the point is that it's after the question of what happened, where did the band go? My short explanation of that is some things to do with fate you just cannot alter. You can't change
Right.
it. It's going that way. And at least that everybody, we even had in our contract, oh yeah, the technical part of the contract is, yeah, we technically got dropped. We did get paid a bit for a second album because we had a good contract. Owen Sloan and Janie Hoffman did a fine job with that. And then I'm 99.9% sure that in our termination agreement, it really says that we're not allowed to do anything with the band unless all four of us are partner to it.
Interesting.
And I believe that was the last contract we signed. And although there were problems, whatever, with expectations maybe from management and stuff, with, you know, to be a dancing front man or something. I don't know what it wasn't me, but but in all honesty, they did a really fine job of having a solid structure with the proper contracts that everybody was protected, and we have so we all got a bit of money when the band broke up and we got dropped. And I also feel good about the fact that nobody should do anything with that band unless all the members are in agreement, and I'm totally fine with that. I think it's great. Although it would be super easy for any of us to do something,
Right.
especially Chris and me, because we have both kind of a treble focal point of the band that we could bring to light. But I would never do that, only if I have everyone else together with me.
And
So
that
that's how it went.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, that's what I want to segue into now, because both you and
Yeah.
Chris, we're going to talk about, you have done a lot. I remember the last time I saw you was around 99 when Judd played in Boston. I don't know if you remember that.
The
That's the
Axis. Yeah.
yeah, that's the last time we saw each other. And
Yeah.
you were with those guys for a while, and then the Fullbliss after that.
Yeah.
And then you've put out a couple of really interesting records, and one just came out. And I want to read something here that Ludwig Kramer wrote from Rock Hard magazine, because he's one of the most respected heavy metal journalists in the world. He wrote,
Yeah.
if you want to do something good for yourself, treat yourself to this new magnificent work by a free spirit who is productive as he is creative, with depth far removed from all style categories. Clemmons is one of those exceptional figures without whom our beloved guitar music would be a good deal poorer. I thought that was a fantastic quote. And
Yeah,
true.
that's nice. I could
Going back to
almost cry when I hear that.
you're very different, Dave. Your style is very different. You're progressive, you're heavy, and all your records kind of have that vibe. It's like I listened to the new album Lights for the Living, because that's really why you're here today, to promote your new record. So let's do that.
Yeah,
And I
there
thought
was a
the
new
record,
album.
yeah, I thought the album was fantastic. Tribe and Throne, that came out a couple of years ago, is an excellent record too, by the way. This
Thank you.
record right here, you're working with some of the same guys. I don't really know these guys. Thomas Goetz, is that how you pronounce it?
Thomas Goltz, he's a drummer from the one of the biggest German rock bands called the Beatsteaks.
Okay.
And they really play for 15,000 people. They sell out festivals, open airs, and they're one of the biggest rock and roll names in Germany. It's a huge project, a huge band, and he's a friend. I've known him for 20 years, I guess, and he we're in the practice room together, and he really just stepped forward when I needed a bit of help, and he's just incredible writer, arranger. He has a memory.
He
And
recorded you too, right? He helped record and mix the record with you.
well, he has a studio in the room that he does his own recordings. He's brilliant. I mean, totally brilliant. And I would say, and he recorded all the drums. I give him, I made all the songs to a click track. That's the way Lights for the Living was made.
Because
I
of the
prefer to
pandemic.
do it.
Because of the
Yeah,
pandemic.
exactly.
Yeah.
I would prefer to do it another way, but already in the winter, 2 winters ago, I started writing in my own studio in my workshop outside of my house here in the village, and I said, okay, it has to happen. So I put everything on the grid. You know, I'm not like that. I like loose, analog practice room songs, loud, sweaty, no machines when you're playing the music, blah blah blah. But I said, okay, it's the pandemic's here. We have to adapt. There's a lot of different ways, and I'm like, I have to make the best of it. And so I really did I jammed and I cut and pasted parts together to try to give it this live feeling. I took the best part of the best part and put it together, found the tempo. I didn't think out the tempo. I found the tempo of what the jam was and I put all that together and I sent it to Thomas. We did everything digitally with WeTransfer, thanks to WeTransfer. And he recorded and sent me the tracks back, send me 22 drum tracks, and I drop them into the session, mix them up and cut them and paste a little bit. And that's how we did it. And then we met in the practice room and did bass overdubs.
Early Gray on bass, right?
Yeah. And
Early Gray.
I've been playing with him for years. He's actually a guitar player, but he's also a great bass player. And he did the bass tracks on both last couple albums. He's a great guy, and he loves the music, and his ego is right where it needs to be. You know, it's like because some of the guy, I mean, there's a lot of people over here. It's difficult. I mean, it's just like in LA. I mean, you keeping a band together and balancing the egos, and this for the 2-year pandemic time, this was the perfect formula. We released Tribe and Throne at the beginning, although it was recorded at the end. Before the pandemic hit, it was still everything free and sweaty and nobody cared. And then I actually mixed and released it at the beginning of COVID. And then Lights for the Living was a complete COVID project, complete writing, everything. I took no ideas from pre-COVID time. I wanted it to feel like the pandemic. And I guess it really does.
I have to ask you a question about your songwriting that I'm curious about. You write a lot of songs that are very long songs, and it's like they have their stories, and there's tempo changes and everything. Is that just the way you feel comfortable writing, or do you ever say, well, I know you have a couple songs that are short songs, but mostly a lot of your songs are longer. I mean, is there any thought process that goes behind that, or is that just the way it happens for you?
Well, the new songs have gotten to be a bit longer, I think. But I mean, Damn the Machine, of course, those songs are super short. I think there's 12 songs.
Yeah, I'm talking about the more recent stuff now. I know Damn the Machine had some 3-minute radio songs.
And it fits on a vinyl. Like punk rock length. Yeah, but I mean, my concept of songwriting, I would love to say, you know, I have a vision and it's going to sound like this and then start writing. But honestly, I have to go back and say what a lot of people that are long in the business say, is that I honestly believe this. I really feel like that my job as a songwriter is just to be a transferer, a transferer of this energy. It comes, I don't want to say it comes, it's there somewhere. I grab it or it grabs me, and I box it up, you know, and then I put it on the shelf for the other people to see and hear. From part to part, the songs, they tell a story themselves. They ask where they want to go. I say it even when I'm writing with other people. Where does it want to go? Where does it want to go? Think about the Guns N' Roses song, Where Do We Go? That's where that lyric came from, by the way. Where do we go now? He didn't know where it was going. And the song wants to go somewhere. It asks. And if you force it, Mark Poland always said that we're beating a dead horse with this one. So time to leave it alone. You know, there's the song has a life. It's its own energy, its own little embryo, and you just have to kind of make sure that you don't fuck with it. You have to make sure that you put it in the right way and let it kind of go fly on its own. And that happened on the last albums where I'm like, I mean, the part is going here and then it goes there, but it has to do this, it has to do this, and it has to do this. And next thing you know, I'm at 11 minutes and 36 seconds.
These are your.
And that
I'm sorry.
particular song. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was going to say these are your words, which I love. A reflection of our position in time from 2020 to 2022 as the beautiful possibility of humanity upon a speck of sand in an unmeasurable universe continues to test itself. You're a real wordsman, my friend. I got to tell you, man. And the song that, I listened to all the songs. And then I wanted to go back and revisit them last night. And then I realized I like the album a lot, but there's a masterpiece on this record, Berlin. And, I asked you for the lyrics. You sent me the lyrics and I read it.
Yeah.
You'll speak for the strong, speak for the weak. Your dreams are over. You'll overload. You'll overcome experience. What were you thinking when you wrote that?
Trying to get words that sound cool.
Does it really mean
what all
anything?
rock and rollers try to do? No,
does it mean?
I sent you that email, right? Because I'm today about those lyrics when you asked for those lyrics, because the original title of that song was Berlin, and then I changed it to Experience, and then in the end, right before releasing the album, I said, you know what? The title of that song is Berlin, right? When I first moved here, I was, as all Americans that moved to Germany, discovering that free alcohol can be a good thing and a bad thing. And I really was, for the first 6 years that I lived here, was really overdoing it, and it got to be quite bad. And there was a lot of bad and a lot of good that happened in those first 6 years in my life. Speaking for me personally, between 2000 and 2006, Berlin's a wonderful place to be. No limits. You could do whatever you want. You could walk around all night. Everybody was just drunk and doing whatever, 3-hour concerts, everything. Nobody cared. It was a good time. And then that's where I kind of made the reference of the Valley for me, because it was like going through something. And that was a personal song. I always try to give my songs double meanings, triple meanings, so that they apply to more things, more people. But those lyrics do have a lot to do with my own experience of coming and going through a dark place and trying to pull myself up out of it, giving myself a pat on the back. You're going to do it. Just keep in mind that you're learning from experience, and you need to do exactly that. You need to learn from experience and not just let it hit you and bounce off of you. You need to really suck it in and let it change your behavior. And so in 2006, I actually became sober, and I've been sober since then. And that was a good thing for me. That was really it was a good change in my life. And I definitely, I'm fine without it. I miss it from time to time, but I don't need it. And this is really what I sent you in the email was that, because the line can be taken two different ways. Your dreams are over. It's like, oh, it's another depressing negative song from DJC. I can't listen to it, But actually, what I thought about by using that line, because I didn't want to use it if that was all it was. It's too simple and it's just terrible. Because dreams are everything. But then I had this what do you call it?
Epiphany?
Epiphany. Yeah, I can never remember. That if you actually achieve a dream, then it's reality, and it's no longer a dream. So technically, your dreams are over because you actually achieved your dreams and you brought them into the light of day, and part of your reality. So so then you can dream about something else. And so actually, I thought, when I thought about that, I thought, man, that's a cool way to take that line. Your dreams are over, is that okay? Then you will overcome it, you will get through it, and you will actually achieve something greater. And accept that that dream is history, because you made it to that one or whatever. Now next level, next level. And so of course you can also take that as a negative thing and say, it's so dark in here, it's too dark to even dream. I can't even I can't
You're
even I
deep.
can't even have a hopeful thought or whatever. And I mean, it's all there. Uh, it's a short kind of a pop song, but those simple lyrics, it's really a few lines of text that is what I was trying to portray, trying to get out. I'm glad that you noticed it too, because it's not the first song that everyone is noticing. A lot of people are talking about the last song, Sea of Ends, which is my personal favorite.
Well, the whole record's really interesting, man. It's good, man. And it's
Thank
musically, you're a genius. Your lyrics are
you.
excellent. I wanted, before we let you go, I want to ask you about Germany. What's it like for an American living in Germany? You've been there for a long time now.
Yeah, yeah. I've been in Germany longer than I've been in Virginia or Los Angeles. I passed the point. It's like the Berlin Wall has been gone longer than it was up. We've passed that point, right? People still talk about it, because I've been here. I moved here officially in 2000, and
Wow.
so 22 years. And so I moved away from Richmond when I was 19. I lived in LA from 86 to 2000, so only 14 years there. Went back and forth a lot. The first years when I was drinking, first moved here, I was traveling a lot back and forth. Definitely great to be in Berlin as an American, but I'm not the only one. There's even a magazine here called the Expat, the Expatriate. I mean, a printed magazine just for people that left their country, mostly Americans, and moved to Berlin. And job boards, if you want to look up where to find a job, or different language schools or whatever. But the novelty of being an American and Germany is long worn off for me. I mean, I'm definitely I'm no longer on holiday here. I have every single day to figure out, where do I get enough money from to pay all these bills, and just keep going and keep going and keep going. We have 5 kids here at home. I have 7 kids total. 2 of my
Wow.
kids are not living here, but we have 5 in the house, me and my wife, and we um, have a lot to do. Inflation is hard here. It's not in 2000. I could go to LA. I'd work for 2 weeks doing handyman work in LA. I have my car, my tools, and come back with a stack of cash, because the Deutschmark, before the euro came, exchange the US dollars for Deutschmark and pay the ticket, have money left over, pay all your time in LA, everything. And now it's not at all the case. Now it's really just, boy, every day just got to keep going, keep going, keep going. It's really, things really, really expensive. Yeah. I pay about, in US dollars, I pay about 500 per month just for electricity.
What?
Just my electric bill is 500 US dollars per month. Yeah. Just as
Wow.
an overview. Yeah. 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 And you don't earn, I mean, minimum wage, whatever. I mean, it's the same as in the States. And so I'm hustling. I'm selling music, and I'm building furniture. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. My wife's working. We get a bit of social assistance because of the amount of kids we have. We fall into a bracket where, although we're both earning, we still get a little bit from the state. And then and we have a house, and so we're doing okay. It looks good. I mean, on the surface everything looks good, but hustle is the word, man. Do the hustle.
Yeah,
Do the
it's
hustle.
been a tough time for a lot of people the last few
Yeah,
years,
it's not only us. I don't want to cry and whine. I mean, it's a problem that goes across the board right now. Inflation it's been in the States. One of the reasons why I moved away from the States is that it was just incredible in Los Angeles in 99. And now it's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times apartment cost by the beach. I mean, I can't even imagine what it is now. But I mean, your question of what it's like to be here, I actually feel less and less like a foreigner, but sometimes it really hits, because I'm okay with the language, but I'm not like, you can tell right away. People always ask where they say, "Was für ein Landsmann sind Sie?" What's that? What kind of a what for a landman are you? Like, what country are you coming from? And the old people think I'm from Croatia, and everybody else just is confused because I have this really strange accent, right?
That's funny,
And
man.
it's all right. It's cool, man. It was the best thing I could have done. I mean, I met my wife here, and my lovely children, and a lot of Thomas Hurley, the guys in the band, and I've got other musicians that I knew before I moved here, but these guys I only met from moving here, and I mean, I wouldn't change anything at all. And now because of the pandemic, I was able to go back into old music and find cassettes and all of that and everything. It's been I mean, I'm working my ass off, very busy, stressed out, hectic, but at the same time, I don't feel like I would want to change anything. I mean, if I would have stayed in Los Angeles, I can't imagine 2022 that I would be talking to you doing the interview. It's like all those things happen in their own special way that make it that everything's frozen and preserved. And yeah, and that was great to have you. I mean, I wanted to elaborate on that, how great that was to have you with us, man, on tour. I mean, I almost think that they gave you to be our little guardian angel, that they threw you out there with us because they're like, these guys they're not gonna make it. They need somebody to.
I got to go on the road with a lot of bands, especially when I was with A&M. And I got to tell you, I think I got along with Damn the Machine better than any band I was ever with. It was just, you guys were
That was
really,
the golden time, man.
you guys
really.
appreciated the fact that someone from the label was on the road with you, because I know some of the other
Yeah.
bands, Voivod and the Big F and Clutch, they didn't always have someone out there with them. I mean, it's like
Well,
it's helpful for a band to have someone from their label,
yeah.
and you guys appreciated the free meals every night.
Oh yeah, man. It's a little bit about the music and a lot about the meals. Yeah.
Well,
Tell
hey,
the judge, was it a good gig? How was the
yeah, you
meal?
guys were great, man. Well, before we go, I mean, I know that you actually paid for the digital, old video to become digital. I had it, but you paid for it and you posted it all. And I got to tell you, it's really good going on YouTube and
Oh,
seeing some of that stuff up there, man. For people out
there's
there
a lot
listening,
more that I haven't, yeah, that I still haven't posted yet. But thank you, man, for preserving those tapes. And you gave me, in the end, you let me off for about half of what I think we were talking about.
don't
Paying
worry
me
about
for.
it, man. Who
But I
cares?
sure do appreciate it because that's all we got. And I'd hoped that there'd be some more concert footage on there, but all I have is a couple Voivod songs live. But with us, I mean, we got some sound checks and a lot of hanging out, and man, it's the only ones. There is no other video, man. You're the only one that had it.
I think
So
the
we're
reason
lucky.
why there's not any footage of you guys doing, I think I did have, well, that was sound check in Salt Lake City. The problem was that I had all these people that were coming to the show.
Yeah,
I had to entertain every night, whether it
yeah,
was writers or radio people or retail or whatever, polygram people,
yeah,
and that's probably why I wasn't out there with the camera for the whole thing. But I'm glad
yeah. But
something.
maybe it'll pop up sometime. Somebody might find a tape. Who knows? But at least we did it. We were there, right? So
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss says, smile because it happened. Don't frown because it's over.
Well, listen, man, good luck with the new record. I love it. I'm going to be playing a couple
Thank
tracks on
you.
my show. So, and thanks for
Wonderful.
taking the time to talk to me, Dave.
Yeah, it's a highlight of the year, man. To see your face and talk after all of that time, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it, Steve. And
All
good luck
right,
with the
man.
program, and see you soon, man.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Thank you.